Sabi is our headline sponsor. I'd like to say a very big thank you to them because we wouldn't be here without them. When Anu said she was going to sponsor this conference, one of the conversations was, how do we help people know what it is Sabi does?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Moonshot by TechCabal.
So, Anu, for those who don't know, what is Sabi? What does it do? Why does it matter?
We're an app. That's it. So basically, we're a platform that enables other businesses to grow. And practically what that looks like is building interventions in different value chains that add up to commercial infrastructure. So that might look practically, if you're a client like us, a client of ours, it means the ability to access supply. So for instance, the physical goods you actually need to sell. It could mean accessing credit or working capital through one of our partners. It could mean using our logistics services to get your things delivered, and a lot of software. So we provide free software for merchants to track their inventory, their sales, and so on.
Okay, so a critical thing is that we have to break this thing down in English.
Okay.
We can't use tech speak. Like, we got an audience that needs to understand. So, for instance, my name is Sule. I trade in peanuts or granite. So I've got tons and tons of this stuff coming out of Kano every year and going where? How do I interface with Sabi?
First of all, if you have a purchase order, for instance, so you already have an off-taker for your products, then what you might need is working capital to buy. So what we would do is evaluate your business, your history, know who your partners are. And bear in mind, we have a very large network, so it's unlikely that we don't know you or anyone you work with. So what we're going to do is understand your history. Are you reliable or not? How much do you need to finance this purchase order? And then we'll talk to one of our finance partners and say, hey, this guy has a 200 million naira purchase order from this very reliable seller. We've checked it out to assure. In addition, he has 100 farmers who will supply him. What he doesn't have is capital. Can you give us the capital to pay the farmers for him? We'll pay the farmers, we'll track the farmers, we'll send trucks to pick it up. We'll control it all the way till it's delivered to the off-taker, and we'll make sure you get your money back. So what we would then do is use ourselves as a trust layer to get that guy working capital. We'd facilitate the logistics. If he didn't have demand, we could get him demand. So if he says, oh, I have 100 tons of groundnuts or of paddy rice or whatever, we could plug him into different off-take agreements so then he doesn't have to be worried about demand.
Fantastic. And how does Sule or Tomiwa start a relationship with you?
If you're a smaller merchant, a retailer, so what you're trying to do is use software or access smaller credit amounts or just order products through us, then you download our app. Okay. If you're a larger merchant, then you'd be using one of different products. So if you are in agriculture or minerals, sometimes chemicals, you'd be using a platform we have called Trace, which is really oriented around helping close commercial agreements for the input space, facilitating exports, credit, and so on. If you're more large-size wholesaler, distributor, FMCG, then you'd probably be using one of our supply products and dealing directly with a relationship manager or an agent.
Fantastic. And you've just mentioned a range of different categories. Which of those are your biggest? Like, what do you play well?
Our biggest by far is agriculture, by far. But we're also in minerals, chemicals, FMCG. Our smaller categories are electronics and pharma.
How does what you do change the life of the people in this audience or outside?
So for us to make money, someone else must make money. What we're focused on is accelerating the pace at which these businesses grow. Normally, if you're doing business in Nigeria or even South Africa or any country we're in, the difficulty is how do you deal with all the value chain failures, infrastructure problems, access problems, and still grow your business quickly, right? So what we're there to do is intervene on your behalf. So because we work with hundreds of thousands of businesses, we have very focused products per different sector for each part of the value chain. And once you plug into that, we're helping make life a bit easier for you so you can focus on your core activities and that way grow faster.
So again, for context, guys, this is a business that is less than 3 years old and that annualized is doing $1 billion in business. You talked about your team. What kind of team does it take to survive the cocaine?
They're all there. They're the ones making noise. Okay, so let me use a better word. Maybe steroids are better.
Okay, all right. Slightly better.
Okay, so so it depends on the stage you're in your business.
Okay.
So when we started off, first of all, a bunch of us had already worked together. That solves many problems around communication. But it solves certain things. Number one, trust. Meaning, if someone has a bad day and they blast you, you're not going to be thinking, what's wrong with your head? You're going to be like, guy, are you okay? Like, let me help you.
I know your level.
Exactly.
You're not performing to your level.
Exactly. Yeah. Or you give them a break. Go home. I'll do it. Let's start again, And then the other thing is you can stress each other. So if someone does something stupid, you'll be like, in your head, did that make sense? You can hold each other accountable, right? So it solves a problem of speed and execution.
Okay.
Second of all, very smart. I think everyone that works in Sabi is pretty smart. And that's not an arrogance. It's just we recruit for it heavily. Very hardworking. So, if you come to Sabi, and you can't work, it's not going to work because everybody will outwork you. And then brave, really, really brave. I mean, you need, so for instance, as a manager, you have a budget and you have targets, right? So you have some young recruits on your team, and you need to make a decision. Am I going to take a risk or not? I need to meet this target. Are you going to let somebody with 1 year experience control a $2 million budget?
Wow.
Right? But if it fails, it's on you.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning mix. Later on, then you bring in, first of all, that mix means people grow serious muscle very quickly. So you could have
big risks.
You have a 28-year-old that can handle things you would never imagine, right? But then as you grow more mature as a business, what you need is consistency and experience. Nothing can take the place of experience sometimes. And so you start bringing in more experienced people. Abby is here. I used to work with her, but she made me toast her for 6 months before she joined, et cetera, et cetera. So you bring in more experienced people over time, and then you try and find the balance with culture. That means you don't lose the original DNA, but the more experienced people balance.
There are a few questions, so let's jump into some of the questions from the audience. I think the first one here is, what inspired the name Sabi? Is there a story?
Sabi now, to Sabi. Sabi.
You now understand. Okay. So
if you're Nigerian, it means to know what to do. You know what's up.
Okay. So this business knows what's up. So your business model has evolved and it's grown, given the needs of the ecosystem. But how do you beta test new products? How do you figure out which gap we have to plug?
You know what? I want to tell you with my whole heart that we have a super sexy productization process. But the truth of the matter is that process, the cementing of it is only happening now.
Okay.
What tends to happen is in executing, when you're trying to scale something, so what gets you from A to B doesn't get you from B to C. So what we do is allow a lot of experimentation. Okay. And where there is demand tends to bubble to the top very quickly. And then we productize that per segment. and then let someone run a pilot. If it's showing promise, and then we lean into it. If it's not, we drop it. But the main thing is having the discipline for prioritization, because you can't do everything at once. You can't break focus too much. But to be honest, we're still getting that balance right.
Fantastic. AI is a big sort of like focus at the moment. So what kind of data insights or predictive analysis does Sabi offer businesses that you work with?
So we have a few data products that we sell on an enterprise level, and we're still fleshing that out. Moya, our new CCO, is very focused on it. But I mean, I think everyone uses AI the same way, right? It's like you want to make sure you have good quality data, build models off of it. I think for our space, we're still figuring out the best ways to use AI to short-circuit things. There's image solutions, identity solutions, etc. So right now, it's still incremental. But I expect that as we get into next year, like we will be, displacing parts of our tech stack with AI solutions.
What does the future hold? I think it's an audience question as well. What are your long-term plans, but what does the future hold for Sabi?
It's just more of the same. Like, you want to be consistent, make sure your users are very happy. Like, for us, our customers are businesses, right? So if we mess up, you're literally messing someone's living up, like someone's ability to pay school fees or whatever. So for us, like, getting the user experience right, making sure our clients are super happy is our number one priority. We've actually tapered off growth to focus on user experience. Extremely important to us. And then I think next year we'll start leaning into growth again. But really, we just want to make sure businesses in Africa have access to the same resources businesses around the world do.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
One round of applause, please.